Hello, you're listening to Rebloom, a gentle space for women's health where science meets compassion and stigma has no home. I'm Tegan, and each week we slow down, peel back the noise, and make room for clarity about our bodies, our hormones, and most importantly, our lived experiences. This is a place to unlearn stigma, understand your body, feel supported as you navigate your own version of health. No shame, no overwhelm, just honest conversations, practical knowledge, and the space to grow. I'm so glad you're here, and let's rebloom together.
Yeah, I'm Vrushika. I'm a activist on getting more better information for PCOS in women, campaigner as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and speak to me about this and share your experience with PCOS. So I want to start from the beginning. What symptoms did you have, and how did you know that it was time to, go to the doctors and get medical help?
Mine was very weird. I actually got diagnosed when I was probably about 11. It was through something else. I actually went in because I was having really bad side pains, so they just did a scan. And in that scan, they told my mum. But again, never really thought anything of it. Had my regular periods all the way up until the pandemic, which was about 2020. And that's when I had missed periods. And that's when I started to kind of look into that a little bit because I totally forgot I had PCOS. And I didn't really do anything about it for quite a while. But then I started putting two and two together about the symptoms and kind of figured that it was PCOS more than anything. And then I didn't actually go and get myself a proper diagnosis until, which is quite bad of me, which is probably like until 2023. But I already knew I had it, so I was already trying to do things to like better my diet and things like that. So yeah, that was kind of it. It wasn't like a straightforward miss the period, go to the doctor. I kind of just left it especially because I read and watched a lot of videos of women who said they would just go to doctors and then stick them on the pill. And I mean, at 11 years old, they told my mum to stick me on the pill, and my mum was like, absolutely not. So I kind of just knew that I wasn't going to get the help that I probably needed. So I just left it.
I can imagine how frustrating that was as well for you, obviously, as you grew up, knowing that even if you needed that extra support sooner than 2023, that all you was going to get was get put on contraception.
Yeah, and a lot of it is down to you just don't hear about PCOS. You don't actually know it's that serious that you need to go to the doctors.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was my body just working against me and I could fix it myself. And again, and that is down to the lack of information we have on PCOS. Whereas, if you've got like stabbing pains in your chest or something, you know exactly that you need to go. And yeah, it was quite frustrating once I found out. And that's why I'm such a big advocate on information on PCOS, because there is just very little, and 1 in 10 women suffer with it. If it means that all women have to go get a diagnosis beforehand, just a checkup like we do with everything else, just to see if they've got it or if they haven't got it.
100%, yeah. And I think people sort of don't realise how big 1 in 8 or 1 in 10 is, and how many women that actually is. When talking about PCOS, it does feel very isolating if you don't know people who actually have the condition, and it should definitely be talked about more. I really believe that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's already like a very isolating feeling anyway, because you just feel, is it just you going through it? And especially like what you just said, if no one else is going through it, because for somebody else, you've gained weight, or why don't you just go on a diet, or why don't you just work out more? And it's like, you could be doing all of those things and still be suffering with PCOS. And I don't think anyone talks about the internal struggle that you have as well, which is that constant fatigue, the brain fog that takes over. And again, on the outside, somebody just probably who doesn't understand it just thinks you're lazy and that you just can't be bothered to socialize with your friends or things like that, And I think, it's it's something that in this modern age where we have so many scientists and we have so many research papers going out there, it baffles me that there's nothing to concrete tell us about PCOS. I know there's no cure, but again, there's no cure because we've not really researched into it. And lo and behold, it's always down to women to go and find their own diagnosis for themselves and the cure.
Yeah, 100%. And doing my dissertation on PCOS, and I'm doing it on metformin treatment because I didn't want to do about contraception because I feel like there's more value in other medications that are just giving you a pill until what? Until you don't want to be on it anymore.
Yeah.
So I found that looking at metformin is actually not the most helpful drug, and yet it's the one that time and time again is prescribed for women who don't want to be on contraception no more. It's like the first and only thing that they'll give you. And looking at the data and seeing that it doesn't actually do that much and they don't know long term how it's going to work is actually quite shocking to me. When, like you said, we're in this modern age now where we have so much knowledge and information and the ability to find all this knowledge, and we're not using it, we're not doing it.
No, and I think it definitely comes down to the lack of research on that. But also GPs just not really being on top of their knowledge on PCOS to a GP before and asked it, like spoken about PCOS, and the GP just not know what PCOS even is. And I'm just there like, are you joking? Because you're supposed to be helping. Yeah, I'm the one that's educating on what PCOS is. That's didn't sit right with me. But on the medication side, again, it is down to the lack of research that is being done. And metformin, I'd say a lot of women want to go on metformin because of social media. I think they see it on TikTok and they see like 4 weeks of metformin. This is how I feel. And I don't know, like it's not a one size fits all type of solution. I found that with inositol. Everyone, I fell into the trap of social media because I was trying everything I possibly could. So I was like, oh, I'll just try inositol, which cost me like £22 a month for a bottle, and it didn't actually do anything. Like my periods weren't coming back. I was still having my brain fog, and I was still ridiculously tired. And again, like, it's so easy to fall into those traps of like, I need that, or let me try this, let me try that, but there's no real information behind all of this. So it's a trial and error, and I genuinely think sometimes the healthcare system is trial and erroring with PCOS as well, because what's after metformin? Like, if that doesn't suit you, where do we go next? And that again, like like we said earlier, like that is just baffling. Like, how are we in 2026 with no sense of solution to PCOS, not even a tablet that actually works?
I wanted to ask you, have you seen about the name change for PCOS?
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Really happy. I think it does give PCOS a better understanding of what it is, because it's not just about your ovaries. It's so much more, and I think the name change really does help with that. And it's now obviously PMOS, which is polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome. And I think that represents the symptoms that people face with PCOS a lot better. And I think also it should hopefully speed up the process in when you're seen and when you're put through a pathway for some improvements, and just helping with the with PMOS or PCOS.
100%. I'm very positive, but I feel like there's still a part of me that doesn't, like, deep down I'm like, how long is it going to take though? Because we've known about, I think the first case of PCOS was found in like 1712, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been around for 300 years. We've known about it for that long. And I know that we've got new advancements, but it's like, we've still had all this time.
Do you know what? I think it's very, very like, let's see how this goes. And what I am hopeful for is that it basically does, like I said earlier, like it hopefully speeds up the process in where they need to be referring women to when they are diagnosed. Because for too long, women are just go on the pill, go on metformin, come back when you want to get pregnant. It's just that's not the case. Like, that's not always the cure for all of this. So yeah, I'm hopeful for the new change, and I'm hopeful that they take the next set of referrals much more seriously than it has been with PCOS. But I totally agree that a name change shouldn't be the reason why we should be accelerating change in this department. It should have just been, we know what the symptoms, and everyone knows what it can lead to, because it can lead to infertility as well, and especially like in an era where people my age, so I'm 30, and people my age and above, so 25 to 40-year-olds, they're not having kids anymore because they can't afford to have kids, because they just can't afford them and can't afford to buy a house or whatever. But nobody tells you that if you have PCOS, that infertility can last, it can kick in at any point. So yes, you might not be having kids because you can't afford to live somewhere, or you can't afford to buy a house somewhere, but it almost takes that decision away from you as well. And I think that's really unfair. And I think if women knew about that much earlier on, when they get diagnosed at an early stage, that's a decision for them to make then. And I think the healthcare system shouldn't be taking that away from us.
No, 100%. And I think that the healthcare system does need to do a lot more work on women's health in general, but also PCOS. But yeah, so when you were talking about how you had to explain to your doctor what PCOS was, how did you find that experience, and what do you think could have gone better in that appointment?
It was very frustrating, really frustrating, because it was almost like, well, where do we go next?
Yeah.
And I was generally told just to go lose weight. And I was just like, what do you think I've been doing for the last 3 years of my life?
Yeah.
And it was just almost like I was sat there and didn't really know where to go next.
Yeah.
What I did end up doing is going and getting my bloods done privately, and that gave me a lot more information through a breakdown, focusing on like my iron, vitamin D. Yeah, it was almost like my GP that I went to just didn't really know what prescribed to me, because again, I was in that stage where I don't want to go on contraception. I had the coil removed, and the coil just didn't sit well with me at all. And I had the non-hormonal coil. I had that removed, and then I was just like, I just don't want to. I was 28 at the time anyway.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was going to take me much longer to conceive. So me and my partner had actually started on the basis that I already knew what was going to happen. I need to get my body prepped for when I want a baby. So I can't be on contraception. Oh well, keep trying them. So, oh, nice. I had to basically force myself to keep banging on the door for the doctor to help me out.
Yeah.
Because then in the end, I knew that I had to go through an NHS fertility pathway, which was going to be the most helpful for me to understand how my fertility was, and just giving answers like that. It did take over a year to even do that. So yeah, it was one of those where it was really just frustrating to sit there.
Yeah, I can definitely understand why. And I remember when I got diagnosed, I think I was 9. Yeah, I would have been 19. And they offered me contraception, and I said no. And they said, okay, are you sexually active? And I was like, I have a partner, yes. And they was like, so why don't you want it? And it was kind of like expected on me. And I remember being so angry because I was like, I don't want to be on contraception. You shouldn't be questioning me as to why I don't want to be on it. And it was just kind of like, okay, well, you won't take this contraception, so you come back to us when you want a baby. And it was kind of just like, we've tried, you refusing. It's like, I'm not refusing, I want another option.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite, I think you should be proud of yourself for actually even, asking for another option. I don't think most women would even know to do that.
Yeah.
So, it's good that you tried, but sadly, they failed you. And I think that's the problem. I love the NHS, and I think, we're a very lucky country to have free healthcare system.
100%.
However, it just in situations like this, it shows where it's not working. It shows where we're funding a model where but it's not investing that money in the right places, and women's healthcare is definitely one of those. And PCOS is the one that just doesn't have a lot on there. Endometriosis is, thankfully getting a lot more coverage, and we now know that I mean, it's not a cure, but at least when you go get diagnosed with endometriosis, surgery that can take place to try and alleviate some of your symptoms and try and help you out a little bit. And obviously celebrities who come out and talk about their endometriosis, like Molly May, that shines a light on it. But you don't find that with PCOS. And that's not me saying that we shouldn't be investing. I think, it needs it. It's just as important. But I think it's almost like one or the other. Why can't we focus on both? University of Cambridge, we have University of Oxford, we have, University of Sheffield. All of these universities have really good medical research departments. Yet we can only focus on endometriosis and not PCOS. And that to me doesn't make sense. And that again, when we need to bang down the door to ask for other options, and we're not being given those options, it's slightly frustrating. But so what happened with yours in the end? Like, what did they do?
They just basically didn't do anything. I said, I don't want contraception, and they was just like, well, you can go then. Just basically told me to leave the room, because it was like, you've got no other option because we won't give you metformin yet.
Wow.
So I just ended up like leaving, and I was just like looking, researching.
Yeah.
And I think that again highlights how scary the supplement world can be, because you don't know, you can trust a company 100%. And just because they say it's a cure doesn't mean that it is. And it's scary how people can use that against you just to try and make a product to get you to buy it so that they can make money.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, it's horrible. I think the fact that your GP just said, right, take one contraception, here's the door, off you go.
Yeah.
That is lack of basic care. Because if somebody, I don't know, like if you had any other illness and you didn't want to go on the one that's going to cause you mental health, and this is voluntarily as well, by the way, because that is one of the, contraception isn't the be all and end all. And if you had any other illness and there was other options available, there's no way that the doctor would say, get out that door, because if you're not going to take my first option, then right, off you go then. And this is why, like I said, I'm a political campaigner, and I chair up Leicester Conservatives, and my biggest policy that I want to see in the next year is more around public health in Leicester. And hopefully, that's working with a lot more public health consultants around. We've got some fantastic names that are, and the Royal Society of Public Health are a great, obviously charities like Verity do a lot of the national influencing, but still, I never hear about it. I never hear about anything of PCOS in Parliament. There might be an odd research paper here or there, but I think it's very common in South Asian women because it is hereditary and it goes back for a very long time. And the diet that you grow up with is not exactly the best for the PCOS. Again, you don't have that information. So how would you even know how to manage it? You're a bit older and you've suffered with it for a while, and then you realise that you should be intermittent fasting on when you've got PCOS. You shouldn't be trying to starve yourself and eating 1,200 calories, or like, you know, eating like the really oily food that you have in some of the South Asian dishes, and like substituting it for other like healthier fats and things like that. And it's, in terms of what you eat, plays a massive part on how to manage your symptoms.
And I think it's something that I'm still trying to figure out. And I think as well, again, with social media, it's like you see one person saying, oh, you need to be eating this all the time. And then you have another person be like, oh, no, don't eat that.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I've found that people actually agree on is protein. It's like a lot of protein. And that's like the only thing I've seen, like a unanimous, like everyone's like, yep.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think protein is, again, it gets marketed in everything. You get your protein shakes, you get your protein bars and whatnot, and it's just, you just don't know where to go.
No.
But protein is a very good way of managing PCOS symptoms, because it calms your hunger. I think with PCOS, your body just doesn't know when it's hungry and when it's not hungry. And I don't know about you, but I had to teach my body to start eating some breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, again, you've seen a lot of the videos. Don't eat breakfast in the morning. Skip breakfast in the morning. Don't worry about it, because you need to get your blood sugar levels down. But again, what they don't tell you is there's so many different types of PCOS. Not everyone that has PCOS is insulin resistant. So that doesn't work for every single PCOS person. And it's just, it's so frustrating on the diet. But again, if you're an alcohol dependent, for example, and you've gone to the doctors, you've asked for a pathway, you are immediately recommended to see a dietitian, because your diet plays a big part in all of this. So why is it with PCOS that's not what we're given? Why are we not seeing a nutritionist about our symptoms? It's just, for me, again, it's like one or the other.
Yeah. And I think PCOS is such a, like you said, there's so many different types. I think there's 4, if I'm not mistaken. I've only learnt that very recently, and I didn't have like any doctor trying to find out what type of PCOS I had. I had like no specialist to talk to about, again, diet. I wanted to ask you, how did you feel when you got your diagnosis of PCOS? So obviously, I know you had one when you was 11, and then you went back to the doctors again we like talk about your experience there. How do you feel living with PCOS, and how have you felt during your journey?
How did I feel when I got diagnosed with it? That realization of, crap, this is harder for me to do anything than anything else. And I'm somebody who goes to the gym quite a lot. I go at least 3 times a week, and I do a lot of strength training. So when I put my weight on, and when I put the weight on, it was honestly out of nowhere. I lost my dad in 22, and I think the trauma, the stress, the grief, it must have all added on, because then from that point onwards, really, I just started putting a lot of weight on, and there was nothing that I could do to change that, because I wasn't doing anything differently. I wasn't living an unhealthy lifestyle either. So I was just really confused on what I could be doing. But when I got that diagnosis, I was like, okay, fine. And I'd already then begin taking my personal training sessions. So I was doing that, working with my personal trainer, and I still do. But again, it's a lot of it's been trial and error for me. A lot of it's been like, let's try this, let's see what that does. Inositol being one, didn't work, great. And then at that point, when inositol didn't work, I actually said to myself, I'm not taking anything. I'm just going to take my basic vitamins, which are my iron, my vitamin D, and my omega-3. That is it, because I'm not putting anything else in my body anymore and letting it suffer with things I don't actually know about. I didn't actually research into inositol, just took it. And that's the problem that we've got, because when you've not got a proper pathway with your doctors, you will start going dabbling in tablets that probably shouldn't even be taking. But I'm at a better place with my PCOS now, I'd say. Ran a half marathon in April, and in that post I spoke about the journey of, I stopped drinking alcohol started off just doing dry January, and then I thought, you know what, I may as well do the whole way, and I'll have my first drink when I finish my half marathon. And that is exactly what I ended up doing. But what I saw was I was getting, my cycle, I could tell the phases I was in, and I didn't know how to do that before. So it was quite nice to be in sync with my body. And the funniest thing is they tell you don't do cardio when they diagnose you with PCOS. They say don't do high intensity cardio. So like your hits, your long runs and things like that. But I remember when I signed up for that half marathon and I said, I've tried everything, go on holiday every single year. Every single year I say to myself, I'll be skinnier next time. And I'm not. It was, for me, touch wood, it's been something really positive with my PCOS. Throughout my journey, what I've noticed, I'm really harsh on myself. I am my biggest critic of like how my body looks, and I'm not comfortable in my own skin. And I think PCOS has done that for me, because before even 2020, really, I was so confident in my skin, and I loved my body. And you look back on pictures, you probably thought, oh my god, I was big then. Like, you're not even big. Yeah, it's one of those, it makes you feel really self-conscious, PCOS does, because you have that bloat, especially if you've not got regular cycles, you're bloating all the time. And then, people make comments about the way you look, and like, why don't you just go lose weight? It's like, oh, I love to lose weight. And I just don't, I don't think people understand how that makes somebody feel. But again, I don't know how you feel on this, but I always feel constantly judged on the way I look. That plays in my mind when I'm picking outfits, or like if I'm going out, and I can't actually enjoy getting ready anymore. But I'm hoping that kind of comes with time, and that goes away a little bit, but learn to manage that a little bit more. But that's the only negative side for me in my journey. How about you? What was your journey like?
Mine was really difficult in terms of body image and self-esteem, because mine sort of kicked off a lot, and I put on weight really quick too. And before I got with my partner, I used to hardly ever eat, and then we got together, and he like helped me with my relationship with food a lot more. But I remember telling people, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's just happy weight because you've got a partner. It's normal." And I was like, I felt like I was going crazy, and I remember just feeling so rubbish and so unhappy with my body. I'm the same, like, it takes me so long to get dressed in the morning. I will put on 5 different outfits. And I know people are like, "Oh no, don't do that, like, you look fine." And I'm like, but I physically don't feel fine. I feel like I look horrible. And it doesn't matter what someone says to me, I feel like I look horrible. Male patterned hair growth as well. That was something that started recently for me. And it's such a hard thing to explain to people. And it feels horrible to me. And I wouldn't make anyone feel horrible who's got it themselves. And you know, it's it's hard mentally because you know that it's just your PCOS, but you can't separate it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get you. And what I would say is, I think the stress of being at university as well doesn't probably help you. But once you've graduated, you will find that a lot of your stress and like your fight or flight mode and in your body kind of goes. But it is one of those things where you figure out what's best for you, and because you're in that environment in uni halls, and constantly like going jumping from one thing to another, that's not the best either. I have to do something, but my PCOS, when it kicks in, I can't do anything, and I am so fatigued and so tired, and that brain fog kicks in, and I can't concentrate on anything at all. And last year I had a really bad episode where I had to take some time out of work because my mental health wasn't there, and I couldn't concentrate on anything because I took on too much. And burnout with PCOS is much more quicker than burnout in a normal body.
Yeah, 100%. And it's really hard to try and like be kind to yourself when you're feeling like that as well, because I keep saying that stuff to me, like to myself. I'm like, I'm really stressed. It's just a PCOS flare up. Like, I'm okay. I don't look massive like I think I do. but it's just so hard in that moment because it's like you genuinely feel it.
I think the hardest thing is also like when you do actually lose weight, like you lose the tiniest little bit of weight, you can't see it on yourself, and somebody else notices it, and you bat them off.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, no, I haven't. You're like constantly just negative about yourself.
Yeah.
I found that quite hard in my running journey where I did lose weight, but when people were saying it, I just thought, no, I haven't. And you, like I said earlier, like you are your biggest critic. That thing that I wish
Yeah.
that we were taught much better on how to accept our bodies and love our bodies as well. And I don't think that's a PCOS thing. I think that's just a normal woman thing. We're so enshrined into having like this, you know, celebrity, social media type of body. It's like not everyone's got that, and that is not reality either.
I find one thing that's helped me is shifting my goals. So when I started like exercising more
Yeah,
in January, I was like, my goals aren't to lose X amount of weight. It was, okay, I want to be able to get up the stairs without getting out of
yeah,
breath. I want to be able to like jog for this distance without
yeah,
sweating loads of buckets and like trying to do goals like that instead. And I found
yeah,
that helped me to have a better relationship with my body. Obviously, I don't know if that would work for everyone, but that's how I personally do it.
yeah. I think that's a good way to tackle it, though. And yeah, I think you've got to approach it with, I just want to feel healthy in my mind, and then the rest follows. But I think if you put too much pressure on losing the weight because you want to look like a certain type of body, then it's just not going to work. And that is something I had to work with my PT quite a lot. You know, something that I was doing in 6 months, somebody else's body would look much different to what it would look like mine. But I was making progress, like I was making small wins. And, you know, I was feeling much healthier. I do feel a lot healthier. It's small wins like those which makes you feel like you are getting there. And I think for a lot of women, it's more the period side more than anything, because it's
Mm-hmm.
that when you don't get that period, you're bloating and whatnot. But I've started to teach myself as well, more than anything, really,
Yeah.
that no matter what symptom you got, lucky to have a woman's body, because our bodies go through so many different things. We have hormones, and our body is constantly floating around with some sort of a
Mm-hmm.
hormone. And we have to go to work, you know, cook dinner, do everything else. And I think if we could just appreciate that, you know, our body is our engine and it keeps us running every single day, then hopefully it makes the PCOS journey a little bit more bearable. Because I think eventually everyone hopefully gets an answer to their PCOS.
Yeah. 100%. I really like that. And I think as much as sometimes I say, oh, I hate being a woman, I love being a woman. And I love the community in women. And I just, yeah. I wanted to ask you quickly. I have this experience where sometimes I'll say to a woman or a person, I'll be like, oh my God, I've missed a period. I'm really stressed. I'm like, you know, and the first thing I ever get is, oh my God, are you pregnant? Or, oh, you're so lucky that you've missed a period. And I get so frustrated. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of, probably not a lot of the, are you pregnant? But a lot of the, oh my God, you're so lucky to not have a period.
Yeah.
And that is the most frustrating thing, because it's like, well, take a step in my shoes and you find that it's not all this rainbows and sunshine of not having a period, because you actually still deal with the hormones. You then deal with
Mm-hmm.
a ton of bloating, and your body's not releasing any of the tissues that it should be, really, like when you have a normal period. So it's being clogged up in your body, and it's not nice at all. It's just horrible. It just feels sluggish for weeks on end, and your body doesn't go
Yeah.
through the natural cycles either at that point. So yeah, it is so frustrating. But again, don't get taught something like this in school, so they have no idea. Um,
No.
and you kind of sympathise with that slightly, because you just think, well, how are you to know? You have no idea what I'm going through, and
Yeah.
you wouldn't even like know how to deal with it, probably. I want the curriculum to reflect it. So not only women who go through it understand what's about to come if they get diagnosed with it, but women who also don't have it, so they can be a supportive community. Also men, because I'm quite lucky with a very supportive fiance. He doesn't understand PCOS, but that doesn't mean he doesn't try and understand it. He will research things. He will, help me celebrate my small little wins.
I have this thing with my PCOS as well, where I'm like, my PCOS isn't as bad as whatever this person's going through, or if someone else is ill, I'm like, oh, well, I've only got PCOS. And I sort of forget that a PCOS is causing a symptom. So, like brain fog, I always forget to associate it with my PCOS, and I'll just get so frustrated with myself. And I'm like, why can't I remember that word, or why did I forget to do that? So I think that's something that I really struggle with. And I think, having a community of people that I do, I'm always talking about it. I think people are sick of me talking about PCOS, to be honest. But it's something I always try and talk about and bring up and normalize, especially with other women, because I think sometimes you just need that person, even if you've not got PCOS, even if you're just having a rough day, or you feel like something's not right, even just talking to someone. So it's something that I really work hard on.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, and also you shouldn't feel bad about talking about PCOS at all times. Talk about it as a lot, like as much as you want. Talk about it all the time, because again, it's not out there. Nobody talks about it, so you don't know what you're looking out for or what you should be even thinking about. But yeah, it definitely needs a lot more conversation. I'm glad that you talk about it a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Something I'm working on more. And actually, this school year, sorry, we did PCOS in my class. We did a lesson on it.
Wow.
And it was actually really shocking when I seen it on like the learning objective. Like, oh my god, we're actually talking about it. I was so shocked.
Yeah, that is actually quite quite good. I've never seen it in any curriculum whatsoever. But I just think, it's something that so many people go through. Like, why do we not learn about it? I don't want to be learning about some random thing that I'm never going to use in my life at
Yeah.
school. And I think the curriculum needs to change in a way that we reflect actual everyday living problems that we're facing. This being one of them. But also for much, much better research to now be invested into PCOS, because we are going to get to a point where women aren't going to be able to reproduce anymore because they haven't managed their PCOS very well. And it's going to cause a lot of problems for women down the line. And that duty of care lies with our healthcare system and why we needed a name change to even
100%.
get boarding. And now that there is a name change, what are we going to do in the UK about that? How are we going to be an investment on R&D on PCOS? So it like pages of like what we're going to do next. It almost feels like a diagnosis, doesn't it? Of you've got a diagnosis, you don't know where you're going next, and it just feels like that as a standstill in the UK. Of we've got the name change, but what's coming next? No one knows at all.
100%. And it's just a bit of like sitting and waiting for someone to do something. It feels like we can't do anything. We're not given the opportunity to really talk or like say what we need in a way. But I know it's something that they're working on.
Like I said earlier, like we are going to have to see local advocacy for better public health policies and helping PCOS women. But it is a national thing, so it has to be changed nationally in order for it to actually come into fruition. So we need to be doing a lot more coverage on this in Parliament. We need to have a lot more MPs advocating and standing up and talking about it in the health and social care oral questions, submitting questions like the written parliamentary questions, a report on it. Now that there is an change, let's advocate for a report on what we need to be doing to improve diagnosis of PCOS and a better pathway for when you get diagnosed. we can't just have a diagnosis and then just sit there and just hope for the best. There needs to be something. What's the next steps? And that comes down to politicians, and that comes down to academics, and that comes down to the experts in the room. They all need to be putting their heads together and actually doing something about it. So it's not just we're not just sat there not knowing what we're doing.
100%, yeah. And I think, you make amazing points about that, but it's like, at what point do they start listening?
Yeah.
Which is unfortunately the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many ideas, and I wish I had the time to just advocate for them. I've said that it's something that I'm so passionate about on advocating for and having as many people involved as possible, because I think it's something on our health. Like, because if it goes wrong, then what? You don't get a do-over. And if things like diabetes as well, and before you even get to that stage, you want to have some answers, and you want to have like a plan in place, and that from you. It can't just come because you created it by yourself. It has to come from the advice given by doctors and the experts in the background of like this. Try this. If it doesn't work, try this one. If that doesn't work, try this. And I think that needs to be in place, but you're doing it on your own, and it is a trial and error, and that's the mindset we all have right now, and that's just not. So yeah, it's definitely something that I want to take to Parliament a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to ask you as well about, obviously you've got such an important job and you do so many amazing things, but I wanted to ask you, like, how do you cope, or how do you manage your PCOS personally?
Yeah, it's been hard because I have something on pretty much every day. I've had to learn to say no to a lot of things. My partner will tell you, like, probably this time last year, I was constantly here, there, everywhere, which is what led to my burnout in the end. And I really ramped up my PCOS symptoms to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed on certain days, and I could sit in front of my laptop and try to work, but I wasn't giving it my 100%.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew something was wrong, because I work. My job is something I'm really passionate about, and in my day job, I work for a charity called Alcohol Change UK, and I'm the senior public affairs lead on that, and it's about health again. So it's not about banning alcohol, but it's about advocating for better policies to be put in place for those who are alcohol dependent. That's not saying if you're a moderate drinker, we're coming for you. That's kind of literally the opposite. It's basically saying we want more people to go to the hospitality settings, and we want them to sit down. And I lost my dad to alcohol, so it was a very, very personal thing for me to want to do much, much better in my job, to get policy changes so other families don't have to suffer like I did. But picking up, and I don't want to do it. There's a problem. So over the year, I've got how I manage, how I kind of juggle all the different competing priorities. Now, I won't just do tons and tons of things on one day. It's space it out. It's okay to reschedule. A lot of people will understand, and if I'm not feeling it that day, I will just move it to another day. To over explain myself either. I've stopped doing that. How I want to spend it is completely up to me. Just managing your time properly and seeing on the day how you feel, making time for yourself. Like, I know that when I go for a swim or whatever it is I do, that's my time. And I will probably go to bed. I'll start going up and getting ready about 9:30, 10 o'clock. I know that time before I fall asleep is my time. So I will unwind completely and use that just to relax before I go to sleep. But again, I think you have to go through like something horrible, or not horrible, but you have to go through the worst of it to figure out what actually works for you and what doesn't work for you. But yeah, I've realized that I just need to take a step back sometimes and try to enjoy what I'm doing.
I think that's a problem that I had a lot. I was sort of like forcing myself to get up, even if I was in agony. I was still trying to go to work and do my shifts, and people were like, Tegan, you're not well. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm going to stay here and work all day. And I was getting so burnt out. I'd be like going home, I'd be like crying every day because I'm just so overstressed, overworked, and my PCOS just wasn't working with me. I was, trying to ignore it. So I really like when you said, saying no to people, spacing out your time properly, managing yourself. I think people forget that other people are also human. Like they're going to be fine with you saying that you can't do something. And if they're not, is it worth spending time with them if they can't accommodate for you?
Yeah, no, exactly. Obviously, there's certain things that you have to
Yeah.
go to. But the things that can be moved, yeah, it's fine. They've probably done it themselves at one point, so they're totally going to understand. But the most important thing is that if you're going to do something, do it because you actually want to do it. And if you don't actually want to do it on that day, you're then forcing yourself to do something that you're not going to enjoy then. And then you're not giving you 100%. And I refuse to do anything like that. I enjoy politics. I want to make a difference in Leicester. I want better in the city, and I want so much for than what we've already got. I know for a fact I can't go into a meeting when I've got brain fog because I'm not going to give the person my 100%.
Yeah.
And I don't want them leaving that meeting thinking I don't care. And that's okay. I think it's a hard thing to know. I still struggle sometimes, but what I do now is I take my time before responding to things. I weigh out the options of, right, what the pros and cons are, and looking at the days and, or if they're flexible to change it to another day, then that's, let's consider that. But yeah, as women, like you said, we do a lot. So it's about how can you do all that and give it your best, a bit like to the best of your ability, and not burn yourself out.
Yeah, 100%. I really like that. And I think also like the word that came to me when you was talking then was self-respect. Being able to respect yourself enough that you don't put yourself in positions where you're burning out and you're not working to the best of your ability or what you know you're capable of.
Yeah.
And not respecting yourself enough to slow down for your body and your health. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to learn, and it's something that I've really struggled to learn as well. So I think it's really great to hear your story and sort of how you've worked on that, and like how you've managed to get to the place that you are today with your PCOS, and seeing an amazing successful woman that you are.
Oh, thank you.
Doing all these amazing things. I think PCOS can feel debilitating sometimes, and it's nice to see that you can have PCOS and you can still be a successful person. You can do all the things that you want to achieve. So I think that was one of the big reasons I wanted to do this episode with you as well, is to sort of highlight that PCOS isn't the be all and end all of a person.
No, I refuse to let it just define me and my future. I have it and it's there, and it's something that it's manageable as well. But it doesn't mean that like I said, it should be all and end all. It doesn't mean that you can't go get that job, or you can't thrive for the best, because if you didn't even know you had it, you would still you would give that next job your everything. Then you do everything you can, right, to try and put everything aside that you feel like, just so you can go and get that career that you want. And not even just a career, but the life that you want, right? So yeah, I refuse to let my PCOS just take over, because if I want something, I'm very much like, I will go get it. It might be longer because of the PCOS, but that's fine. But I will also go get it, and I will make adjustments as and when, and go get what I want. And that's literally how I operate in life now. Like I said, I take some time out, and my partner, like I said, I'm quite lucky with him, and he recognizes when I need to step back from something, or go on a holiday, for example. It's things like that where you're like, right, I think you just need a good break. And having that also is really helpful in the background. It's anything to calm your mind down, isn't it, really? If you need a day just to calm yourself down, And that's the best thing, like spending, that time doing that. So yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah, of course, definitely. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated having you on. It's
Oh,
been amazing. And thank you so much for
No
sharing
worries.
your journey and your story. And it's amazing to
Thank
see
you.
like who you are now and how you've not let it define you. I think it's gonna really inspire a lot of people.
Oh, thank you, Tegan, and thank you for having me. I really do appreciate that you are creating a set of these. So you're doing a lot of these podcasts and editing them as well.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you
No, of course.
for having me on.
Before we go, do you have like one little message for the audience or the person who's listening right now?
Yeah, I would say if you feel like you've got PCOS, go get that diagnosis and knock your doctor's door down for a better fertility plan and for a better pathway as well. I say your fertility plan because even if you're young and you don't know what's going to happen and whether you want kids or not, it's always good to just know about what your options are. Don't let the healthcare system take that option away from you. And yeah, a better pathway. Talk to your MPs about it. Talk to your councillors about it. And we need better answers from Westminster, and we need a better advocacy plan put in place for PCOS. So yeah, and if anyone needs help reaching out to the MPs or doing this type of work, then yeah, please feel free to reach out.
Where can they reach out to you on?
Find me on LinkedIn, Vrushika Valand. Connect with me and yeah, just drop me a message and I will get back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, Tegan.
Thank you for listening to Rebloom, where we turn women's health into clarity, confidence, and compassion. If today's conversation sparked a question, or maybe a new perspective, then I'd love to hear from you. Remember, your health is worth understanding, and your voice is worth using. See you in the next episode.